I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely sick of hearing the term spotfest. It's been floating around in wrestling discourse for decades. While there's no strict definition, it's generally used to describe relentless matches packed with big, crowd-popping moments of spectacle. The term is often also used to describe matches that supposedly sacrifice psychology and storytelling for the sake of flashy athleticism. But what counts as storytelling or psychology in wrestling is deeply subjective, and the place of so-called spotfests in wrestling's larger narrative landscape is far more complex and interesting than I think many critics acknowledge. In these cases, I think it's more often than not used in what I would consider bad faith arguments by fans, in an attempt to denigrate matches that don't conform to their particular taste. I believe this overlooks the creativity, passion and innovation of these matches, as well as their importance to the wider wrestling world. In this episode of WrestleLore, we're going to look at 3 of the best known and widely acclaimed spotfests, one from each of the last 3 decades, and go in depth on what makes each of these matches so unique and influential, discussing whether the term spotfest even applies to them, and what matches like these mean for the diversity of modern wrestling, and for the future of the sport. Michinoku Pro was founded by the great Sasuke in 1992, having led an exodus from Universal Lucha Libre with a number of his fellow wrestlers, eventually being joined by their trainer and ULL founder Gran Hamada in 1993. Sato, Terry Boy and Shiryu had formed Heisei Kaientai in late 1994 in opposition to the rest of Michinoku Pro. After a month off in February 1996, the group would return, with Sato now going by Dick Togo and Terry Boy by Men's Teo, the group itself being renamed to Kaientai Deluxe, or Kaientai DX for short. They were joined by the Dream Chasers tag team of Taka Michinoku and Shoichi Funaki in mid-1996. The group would be constantly engaging in tag team contests with many of the top stars in the promotion in varying configurations, including an acclaimed match in October at the Michinoku Pro 3rd anniversary show that saw them defeat Gran Naniwa, Tiger Mask, Gran Hamada, Super Delphin and Masato Yakushiji. 2 months later, there'll be another acclaimed 10-man tag between the 2 teams, though this time the great Sasuke will be taking Tiger Mask's place. Now normally in each episode I'll run through the matches, going in depth on moments and themes that I think are particularly interesting. But for these 3 matches, it's going to be a real challenge, because the pace of them is just unreal. So while I will try to run through them, it will be a challenge to keep up, and I'll have to save any in-depth analysis or discussion for the end. Kaientai are booed heavily, arrogant as ever as they are introduced, taunting the Michinoku Pro home team, who will get great reactions from the fans in attendance. Taka Michinoku steps up for his team, and after taunting Yakushiji and Sasuke, it's Hamada who steps up to meet him, slapping him before a brief skirmish. Hamada gets the better of Michinoku with an arm drag and drop kick before inviting Yakushiji to connect with a double foot stomp. Michinoku takes back control and tags in Shiryu, who begins Kaientai's signature elbow barrage, which ends with the Kaientai team taunt, before Men's Teo takes over. This match plays fast and loose with the tags, especially when it comes to double and triple tag team moves. Yakushiji forces Togo into the corner, allowing Naniwa, Hamada and Sasuke to form a triple team beatdown. Togo manages to power out Naniwa's chinlock, landing a belly-to-belly suplex before bringing Taka back in. The pair trade slaps until Naniwa hits the clothesline. He attempts the crab walk elbow, but gets drop kicked to the outside. Michinoku feints a suicide dive, and Naniwa hits a clothesline, body slam and the crab walk with the help of Sasuke for 2. Delphin is in and he sends Michinoku to the outside, before getting the better of Teo. Togo and Hamada trade big shots, and while Togo gets the advantage, Hamada counters the powerbomb with an arm drag and sends him into the ring post. Shiryu is quicker off the mark than Sasuke, catching him with a dropkick. The 2 run the ropes at lightning speed, and Shiryu manages to evade Sasuke's spinning wheel kick. Sasuke connects with the cartwheel back elbow and looks for a dive, though Shiryu manages to get out of range. Naniwa comes back in, this time with Funaki. He drops him with a pair of low drop kicks and teases yet another dive, but faints. Teo pitches Yakushiji to the outside twice, before Yakashiji connects with a dropkick and a baseball slide into a head scissors. Michinoku initially gets the better of Sasuke, but gets launched out of the ring and flung into the third row. Back in the ring, Kai and Tai begin working over Yakashiji, before he connects with 3 gorgeous arm drags on Togo, once again feinting the dive. Hamada locks in the armbar on Teo, before Michinoku breaks it up. He counters both men before locking in the armbar on Michinoku, with his teammates coming in to help with a quadruple team submission. Shiryu breaks up Sasuke's choke, nailing a tombstone piledriver. Hamada breaks it up, but begins to get dominated by Kai and Tai as they choke him in the corner, followed by a spike piledriver and Togo's flex on Hamada's back. Naniwa goes back and forth with Michinoku and Shiryu before Delphin enters, nailing a sharp stalling brainbuster and locking in a Romero special before Togo makes a save. Kai and Tai Deluxe quickly and aggressively work over Delphin until Naniwa and Yakashiji make the save, with Naniwa nailing a backdrop driver on Shiryu. The faces take the Kai and Tai Deluxe approach of quick tags to control their opponent until Taka intervenes, getting into a short spat with Yakashiji. Sasuke tags in but gets forced straight into the heel's corner, and Kai and Tai have their first really prolonged beatdown opportunity of the match as they dismantle Sasuke. The onslaught includes suplexes, chokes, and a nasty chair shot to the head by Teo. They wipe out the babyfaces and add a triple team powerbomb, but Sasuke manages to kick out at 2 before rolling outside. Togo drops Yakashiji on his head with a German suplex, Shiryu following up with a fisherman buster, though Yakashiji manages to kick out. He counters the Dream Chaser's attempt at some offense and makes attack to Delphin, who is one hell of a hot tag here, wiping out Kai and Tai Deluxe before being shut down by Michinoku. It's at this point the match becomes the massive move fest you'd expect. Sasuke lands a springboard moonsault, but the Thunderfire powerbomb is countered by Shiryu, who lands a huge dive. Teo drills Naniwa with a backdrop driver for 2, and Naniwa's gut wrench powerbomb pin is broken up. Hamada connects with a tilt-a-roll slam and a super hurricane rana, this time with Shiryu breaking it up. Sasuke lands a springboard moonsault, but his German suplex pin is countered, and Shiryu's Frankensteiner pin is broken up by Delphin. The former arch rivals manage to get the better of Kai and Tai with a pair of stereo diving attacks, before each connects with one of their signature moves. Delphin's Tornado DDT into the Delphin Clutch, and Sasuke's Thunderfire Powerbomb, though the pins are broken up by Togo. He catches Yakashiji with a monstrous snap power slam for 2, and follows it with a massive powerbomb. He ascends for the diving senton, but is met by Sasuke, who runs interference. Sasuke barely avoids a chair thrown by Teo that drops Togo, and connects with the Asahi moonsault to the floor. Yakashiji hits a perfect diving Hurricane Rana, and Togo barely kicks out in time. He wipes out Togo with a suicide dive, and back inside the ring, Shiryu drills Hamada with the tombstone, and follows up with a moonsault, the pin being broken up by Naniwa, who is instantly dropped by a missile dropkick from Michinoku, who flies up the ring with a spaceman plancher. Hamada connects with a springboard crossbody, followed by a Hurricane Rana, and the crowd erupts as the referee counts 3. Writing about this match in no way does it justice. I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up saying that for all these matches, but it's still absolutely true. For the first few minutes of the match, we get teasers and short glimpses of the fast-paced, high-flying action we've come to expect, but not all of it, building anticipation that gets paid off spectacularly in the second half, and the closing sequences especially. In previous matches, Kai and Tai have maintained their advantage through superior teamwork, wrestling the match as a unit, with lots of double and triple team offense, and continually isolating a single opponent, in contrast to the face team that worked more as individuals, the net result being less than the sum of their parts. Here, the faces work as a cohesive unit, dragging members of the heel side to their corner and matching the aggression of KDX. I wish we'd see more of the Kai and Tai style of offense from heels today. Their death by 1,000 cut style of relentless tag offense could be adopted by any of the quicker heel teams we're seeing right now. This merciless pressure, combined with their obnoxious and arrogant behaviour, really gets under the skin of the fans, and is a great blueprint for how modern lightweight heels can be really effective today. I've seen the argument sometimes that quick and athletic high flyers can't be truly effective heels, as they're just too impressive to watch to be really despised by the fans. Kai and Tai is absolute proof that this is not the case, as the heat they've managed to generate before and during this match is intense. The crowd hates them, and are firmly behind the babyface side, who all get great reactions from the beginning of the match all the way through to the hot closing stretch that sees everyone get a chance to shine. All 10 men are on their A game here. KDX are a top tier, greater than the sum of their parts group, and they work tremendously well together. With Michinoku, who is seemingly everywhere at all times, and the X Factor that is Dick Togo being the MVPs for their team. Yakashiji puts on probably his greatest ever performance here, looking great when he's being worked over, and when he makes a fiery comeback towards the end. Likewise, Super Delphin is on fire when on offense, and the great Sasuke and Grand Naniwa get tremendous reactions and have real vicious streaks here too. I've deliberately left out one man, as I'd like to take this opportunity to sing the praises of and pay a brief tribute to the late great Gran Hamada. I would really like to cover him in much more detail in his own video in the future, because in proportion to his influence and lasting impact on wrestling, I think he might be the most underrated and underappreciated wrestler of all time. An original member of the New Japan roster and one of their first dojo trainees, he would be sent on an excursion to Mexico in 1975. Undersized for New Japan, especially at that time, he would find great success and popularity in the UWA, earning the nickname Gran, meaning great, Hamada. He would bring the Lucha Libre style back to Japan, founding Universal Lucha Libre with protege Yoshihiro Asai, the future Ultimo Dragon. This would be the first Japanese promotion to be based around the Mexican wrestling style, becoming the bedrock of what would come to be known as Lucharesu. Hamada is the progenitor of the modern junior heavyweight and Lucharesu styles, and his fingerprints are all over the modern wrestling world. His students include Ultimo Dragon, the great Sasuke, Jinsei Shinzaki, Gedo Anjado, Super Delphin, Taka Michinoku, Shiryu, Dick Togo, and Mensteo. Without his influence, the influence of his students, and their students, and so on, modern wrestling is unrecognisable. Michinoku Pro was founded by Sasuke and his other students, and Ultimo Dragon's Toryumon Japan students would form Dragon Gate, two of the most important promotions when it comes to the wrestling style of today. The current junior and heavyweight divisions of All Japan, New Japan and Noah all reflect Hamada's blueprint. Beyond Japan, all of modern wrestling, the modern indie style, the current WWE style, today's hybrid Lucha Libre, it all traces its roots back to Gran Hamada. Without him, the wrestling world as we know it would simply not exist. Hamada tragically passed away this year, but his legacy will live on. The 10-man tag team match from the anniversary show a few months earlier is the famous one. I think being given 5 stars in the Wrestling Observer has made that match into the go-to Michinoku Pro match for many people, the defining match of the M-Pro home team Kai-En-Tai Deluxe feud. Whether you agree with Meltzer's ratings or not, his influence is undeniable, and a 5-star rating, contemporary or historical, can mean many more people seek out a match than otherwise would have. For me though, it's this match here that's the definitive Michinoku Pro bout. The purest expression of the Lucharesu style at the time, a near-perfect showcase of athleticism, timing and creativity, performed in front of a white-hot crowd, and a match that is rightfully heralded as one of the all-time greats of its style. 10 years on, a 6-man tag team match would take place on Ring of Honor's first WrestleMania weekend show that would change independent wrestling forever. The match featured 6 of Ultimo Dragon's students, a match that would come to be known as the Dragon Gate 6-man tag. Blood Generation vs Do Fixer. After Ultimo Dragon departed the Toryumon Gym in 2004, the popular independent promotion consisting of his students, Toryumon Japan, restructured, becoming Dragon Gate. All 6 men were founding members of Dragon Gate, and members of 2 opposing factions. Do Fixer had begun in Toryumon as a heel stable, but had turned face around the time Toryumon rebranded to Dragon Gate, its core members being original leader Magnum Tokyo, second leader Ryo Saito, Genki Horiguchi, and Dragon Kid. Shima's Blood Generation was formed the previous year, the Dragon Gate successor to Toryumon's Crazy Max stable, the original heel stable in the promotion. Crazy Max members Shima, Don Fuji, and the first Dragon Gate Dojo graduate Shingo Takagi will be joined by newly heel wrestlers Masato Yoshino and Naruki Doi. Shima had made his debut for Ring of Honor in August the previous year, defeating AJ Styles, while the other 5 men debuted the night before this match at the Dragon Gate Challenge event. Open the Dream Gate champion and Do Fixer leader Ryo Saito defeated Jimmy Yang, Genki Horiguchi and Dragon Kid fell short to AJ Styles and Matt Sydal, and the Blood Generation contingent of Shima, Yoshino and Doi defeated Generation Next's Austin Aries, Jack Evans and Roderick Strong in a match that was well received by the fans in the building. Little did they know what would be unleashed the night after. The 6 men get decent reactions as they're introduced, though nothing blow away, which is unsurprising. Even among Ring of Honor's hardcore fanbase, Dragon Gate was not yet particularly well known. This match is contested under Dragon Gate rules, so while we will see some tags, they aren't necessary, much like the Michinoku Pro match we discussed earlier. Horiguchi opts to start for Do-Fixer, and it's Yoshino for Blood Generation. They engage in some great chain wrestling, with Horiguchi getting the better of Yoshino with a pair of crisp arm drags. They tag out to Dragon Kid and Doi, and while Doi briefly uses his size to take the advantage, Dragon sends Doi to the outside after an arm dragon head scissors, before feinting a dive. Saito enters for the first time to mix out with Yoshino, who runs the ropes at an insane speed, though Saito manages to counter his head scissors with a side slam. Do-Fixer begins to work over Yoshino with some great quick tag offense, until Yoshino manages to force Dragon Kid into his corner. Blood Generation isolate Kid and target his back with some power moves, but he manages to catch Shima off guard and make the tag to Saito. Dragon Gate rules allow Shima to beckon Doi in when he finds himself trapped in a chin lock, but Saito gets the better of Doi in an overhand chop exchange. Do-Fixer take over with some awesome double and triple team offense, including an awesome triple team dropkick. Horiguchi tries to continue the momentum, but Yoshino and Shima assist Doi in dragging him to their corner. Each member of Blood Generation proceeds to grab a handful of Horiguchi's receding hair for a series of hair mares, before a quick double team from Yoshino and Shima. Doi and Shima stand guard as Yoshino locks in the flying octopus hold, and his quick pin attempt only gets 2. Blood Generation continue to wear down Horiguchi, targeting his midsection with double and triple team moves, just as they did to Dragon Kid earlier, isolating Horiguchi in their half of the ring and applying suffocating pressure with their combination offense. Shima locks Horiguchi in an abdominal stretch, and Saito encourages the fans to chant H-A-G-E, Hage, the Japanese word for baldness, which fires up Horiguchi. He reverses the stretch of a hip toss, but can't make it to his corner before Doi intervenes. Doi tries for the suplex, but Horiguchi blocks, landing one of his own and finally making the tag to Saito. Saito catches Doi with an overhead belly to belly, and Kid sends Yoshino to the outside with a deja vu. Horiguchi wipes out Doi with a tope, and Dragon Kid connects with an Asai moonsault on Yoshino. Saito and Shima trade chops in the ring, before Shima connects with a dropkick after a kip-up. Saito counters a Hurricane Rana with a powerbomb, followed by a trio of Fisherman Busters for a 2 count. Shima lands a double stomp, and Blood Generation go back to their relentless tag team offense, restraining Saito in their corner before wiping out both him and Dragon Kid with a double team bulldog. Yoshino lands a sling blade and a phenomenally explosive missile dropkick for 2. Yoshino tries the suplex, but Dragon Kid counters with a stunner. Doi pushes Yoshino out of the way and counters the tilt-a-whirl with a facebuster. He gets caught with a dropkick by Horiguchi, but gets his knees up on the moonsault. Horiguchi reverses the sit-out fireman's carry with an inverted DDT for 2. He tries for the axe guillotine driver, but Doi lands a sit-out fireman's instead. Horiguchi too kicking out though. Saito intercepts Doi on the top rope and holds him in place as Dragon Kid ascends. A gorgeous Super Hurricane Rana is followed by a massive splash from Saito, and the crowd is shocked when Doi somehow kicks out. At this point, commentators Dave Prazak and Lenny Leonard opt to lay out for the rest of the match, as they are quite right that the action speaks for itself here. Doi blocks Dragon Kid's Hurricane Rana, holding him in place for a kick from Yoshino. He gets wiped out by a Horiguchi dropkick, who in turn takes a super kick from Shima. He tries for the Schwein, and Horiguchi tries the backside from heaven, before nailing a DDT. Doi connects with a nasty pendulum powerbomb, but gets taken out by Saito's Hurricane Rana. Yoshino attempts a Torbolino, but Saito lands a perfect German suplex for 2. When he gets to his feet, Dragon Kid is waiting, connecting with a lightning fast springboard Hurricane Rana, though the pin gets broken up just in time. Dragon Kid signals for the Dragon Rana, though he's cut off by Shima. Saito intervenes, and Dragon Kid assists the German suplex, before Horiguchi spikes him with the axe guillotine driver. He's slow to make the pin, the work done to his back earlier on slowing him down, and Shima kicks out at the last possible moment. Genki gets caught in the corner, and Blood Generation work as a unit, wiping out both he and Saito with an awesome combination. Dragon Kid tries to springboard Rana, but Shima catches him and drills him with the Schwein, though Dragon Kid kicks out once more. Doi nails his signature kick, but Horiguchi flies in to keep the match alive. Doi elevates Dragon Kid to the top rope, looking for the sit-out fireman's, but Dragon Kid counters, dragging Doi down to the mat with a huge cutter. He signals for the end, ascending to the top rope and connecting with a perfect Dragon Rana to earn the victory for his team in an unbelievable match. The crowd chants for Dragon Gate as they slam the barricades, and while Doi and Yoshino refuse, Shima shows respect to the Do-Fixer side before leaving the ring. This is a very special match. For me, it's almost certainly the greatest single match advertisement for a promotion of all time. It created buzz for a relatively unknown Japanese independent in the US and beyond virtually overnight. The crowd starts out more curious than anything else, but by the end of the match, they are absolutely rabid. What makes this match so compelling isn't just the athleticism, though there's plenty of it, it's the way both teams function as tight, cohesive units. The tag team offense from Blood Generation is an absolute pleasure to watch, appearing to be almost telepathic in its coordination. Do-Fixer 2 work seamlessly together, and you get the clear sense these are two united factions competing against each other, rather than 6 individuals. Every man in the match has a role, and gets ample opportunities to shine, but it's definitely structured as a vehicle for Dragon Kid. According to Ring of Honor booker Gabe Sapolsky, this was the intention, with Shima telling him beforehand this would be Dragon Kid's match, and it shows. He's the smallest man in the match, and the lowest in Dragon Gate's power scaling hierarchy at the time, but his heart and resilience are the emotional core of the match, especially towards the end. The last few minutes are built around questioning whether or not Dragon Kid can win the match for his team, trying and failing to secure the victory with several big moves and shockingly kicking out of Shima's finisher. The tension builds until he finally manages to put Doi away with a spectacular Dragon Rana to a huge ovation from the fans. I'm normally quite wary of talking about how influential a match or wrestler is. When I hear people talking about influence in wrestling, a lot of the time I feel they are just repeating what they have heard someone else say as gospel, without really thinking about it. I made an exception when talking about Gran Hamada earlier, as I feel that I can articulate fairly well how I think he influenced the wider wrestling world, and I'll make another exception now. I think this is absolutely one of, if not the most influential match when it comes to modern wrestling. If you look at independent wrestling prior to this match, I think it's fair to say that the biggest influences were ECW and All Japan. It was raw, boundary pushing and intense, and incredibly long matches were much more commonplace in the US. Big multi-man tags and scramble matches with massive high spots were nothing new, especially in Ring of Honor, but the speed, precision and perpetual motion brought into the spotlight by this match certainly were, having a profound and almost immediate impact on the American indies. You can draw a straight line from this match to the explosion of the modern work rate style that came to define the back half of the 2000s and especially the 2010s, and from there, it's not hard to trace that influence to the prevailing styles of some of the biggest promotions in the world today, and I'd argue, to the formation of AEW itself. I'm too young to have known exactly how fans reacted to this match when it first happened, but from what I've gathered, it was like watching wrestling from another planet. If you're watching it today, especially after seeing the high spot heavy matches it inspired, you might wonder, what's all the fuss about? Compared to what came later, there aren't that many huge jaw-dropping moments, which I think is a surprise to some people who watch it for the first time, given its reputation. But that's not what makes this match special. What sets it apart is the pace and the flawless execution. It's less about the big moves and more about speed, precision and seamless teamwork, qualities that make it feel closer to the smooth, fast-paced Michinoku Pro tags that preceded it than to the chaotic multi-man matches that followed. It's a masterclass in rhythm and flow, done to perfection. It's all so clean, so well executed, and while some may disagree strongly, I don't believe it looks cooperative or inauthentic at all. If you haven't seen this match, and consider yourself a fan of modern wrestling, or are just interested in the evolution of the wrestling style in the West, then I implore you to seek this match out. I think it's without question one of the most significant matches of the 21st century, and beyond that, I think it's pretty great too. For the final match, initially I wanted to talk about the most controversial match of 2016, between two of the top high flyers anywhere in the world at the time. However, due to the promotion where this match took place, and their, some would say, cavalier approach to copyright claims, I would have to heavily censor any footage I used, which I don't think is particularly entertaining for you. While I am working on a potential solution that will allow me to cover wrestling from such litigious companies in the future, for now, I'm content to cover the second most controversial match of that year. One that saw 6 of the best in the world engage in one of the most chaotic multi-man matches the independents had ever seen, in what I would describe as the mecca of independent wrestling at the time, American Legion Post 308. Adam Cole had begun teaming with the Young Bucks at the 2013 Battle of Los Angeles, forming the Mount Rushmore stable alongside Kevin Steen. After not appearing for PWG for most of 2015 due to Ring of Honor commitments, he would return, replacing an injured Super Dragon in the second incarnation of the group, with the Young Bucks and new partner Roderick Strong. In May 2016, Cole would be revealed as the newest member of the Bullet Club, now allied with the Young Bucks in both PWG and Ring of Honor. Their opponents will be three of the most prolific high flyers in the world, each representing slightly different generations of independent wrestling. Ricochet, Sydal and Ospreay were teaming together for the first time here, but they were far from strangers. All three had faced each other in various singles matches, and Ricochet and Sydal were regular tag team partners. The reigning never openweight 6-man tag team champions with Satoshi Kojima had previously held the IWGP Junior Tag titles twice. This match took place in September of 2016 as the main event of the second night of PWG's Battle of Los Angeles tournament, and will become one of the most recognisable spot fests of all time. After a ton of pre-match shenanigans from both sides, the match finally gets underway, with Ricochet and Cole starting the match for their sides. There's some pretty standard chain wrestling between the pair, and when Ricochet shows off his athleticism with some excessive flips to escape the wrist lock, Cole responds by spitting in his face. Ricochet kicks Cole out of the ring before both Sydal and Ospreay get the better of the Bucks, sending them to the outside. The trio tease triple dives, before feinting with triple handsprings into the superhero pose, which gets a pop. The two sides face off, ending with a triple super kick that sends a super click to the floor. Sydal slips as he's being assisted to the top rope, at which point the heels begin to beat him down on the outside, before double Sasuke specials wipe them out. Cole and the Bucks respond with triple super kicks and tease triple Kenny Omega-esque Terminator dives. They get pulled out of the ring but counter, connecting him with 3 Kevin Steen-esque apron powerbombs, followed by a triple suicide dive. The match stabilises for the first time as a super click begins to work over Ricochet, isolating him until he catches Nick with a DDT. He makes a tag to Ospreay, who runs roughshod over his opponents with a blitz of offense, before being turned inside out by a super kick from Cole. The Bucks wipe out Ricochet and Sydal with dives, and Cole teases a dive, but opts instead to shout his catchphrase. The trio isolate Ospreay, including with Matt Jackson's most excessive back rake yet, which gets a huge reaction. Ospreay causes a miscommunication to escape Cole's camel clutch, before landing a triple Pele kick. He tags in Ricochet, who begins a lengthy sequence that takes out the entire opposing team, his standing moonsault shooting star press combo only getting 2. After an excessive backflip sell after a boot from Cole, Sydal wipes out all 3 of the Frankensteiners, before landing the Here It Is driver for 2. He takes a nasty spill after Cole counters his Avalanche Rana attempt. The Bucks wipe out Ricochet and Ospreay, before the super click relentlessly beat down Sydal with tag team combinations, ending with a 450 splash onto Sydal and Ospreay while they're being held in the ropes. The Bucks try for the Meltzer driver, but Sydal manages to counter with a slice jawbreaker combination and makes the tag to Ospreay. He lands a quick flurry of strikes, but gets sniped in mid-air by Cole. Cole works over Ospreay in the corner, landing 9 of the 10 count punches before getting cocky, taunting Ospreay to suck his Ospreay responds by biting Cole's groin, and connects with a cheeky Nando's kick. Ricochet flies over Cole and the ring post to wipe out the Bucks, before Sydal appears out of nowhere for a Poison Rana. Ospreay connects with the Robinson special. Ricochet returns with a springboard 450, and then Ospreay lands a corkscrew moonsault, but the Bucks make the save at the last moment. There's a standing ovation and a PWG chant as Ospreay makes the tag to Ricochet. He tries his locomotion Northern Lights, but the Bucks intercept with super kicks. Cole hits the knee drop brainbuster. Sydal and Ospreay connect with double super kicks before dropping the Bucks, nailing a Poison Rana and Spanish Fly on Matt. Cole feints high and lands a super kick, but Sydal intervenes, nailing the Hurricane Rana. Cole avoids the shooting star, and Nick catches Sydal with a super kick, followed by one for Ricochet, before Cole nails the Panama Sunrise. Nick kicks Ospreay off the apron onto his brother's shoulders, sending him to the floor with a Doomsday super kick. Ricochet attempts the Benadryller, but it's countered, and he gets spiked by more bang for your though shockingly he manages to kick out, leaving the super click and the crowd stunned. After they recover, the Bucks try more bang for your buck, though Ricochet is able to avoid it. He and Sydal connect with a double team Benadryller, but Ricochet gets caught in the tombstone once more. Nick springboards for the Meltzer driver, but Ospreay manages to catch him mid-air with an enormous cutter. Ricochet counters as Sydal climbs to the top rope, and they hit, to my knowledge, the first ever shooting star Meltzer driver, and the crowd explodes. All 3 men climb to the top rope, and triple shooting star presses seal the deal for the high-flying Dream Team. This is the most excessive, gratuitous and celebratory a match can really be, but but I'm in two minds as to whether I still love it the way I did when I first saw it 10 years ago. It's non-stop action with a white-hot crowd, and two teams giving absolutely everything they have. Whether you like this match or not, I think you have to commend these guys for pulling off so much here. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to organise and execute a match like this. There's a lot I really like. The Bullet Club does some great work when it comes to isolating individual members of the Super Friends team, and you do feel, like in the previous two matches, they are a unit, with slick, practiced tag team strategy. They do a ton of great, arrogant, cocky shtick, much like Kai and Ty in the End Pro match. If they were fully fledged heels, I think it'd be really effective, but the three are so popular, they get cheered the entire time. Rather than a heated contest between heels and faces, this is essentially two popular teams having a party match. There's nothing wrong with that inherently, but I do wonder if the match would work better if the Bullet Club were treated more like heels. The Reseda fans are, as always, a phenomenal crowd. They're invested from bell to bell, constantly making noise and chanting. It's so obvious how much fun they're having here, and I do think that's a vital part of what makes this match so special. The crowd wanted to see a spectacle, and that's exactly what they got, and they paid the wrestlers for it by being incredibly raucous, making the match seem even greater because of the reaction to it. What I think is most interesting about this match is its self-aware, almost satirical nature. This is something that I think really divides fans who watch it. In a lot of ways, the match is a joke that everyone else is in on, and whether you are too is down to your own wrestling preference. Excalibur is joined on commentary by Chuck Taylor for this one, and if you've heard these two commentate an Adam Cole match in PWG before, you know exactly the sort of abuse he receives from them here. Besides that ribbing, the commentary is consistently satirical, with them playing it straight at most half the time. The fans are in on the joke too, playing along with Matt Jackson's back-rake of doom, with overblown, ironic reactions. The wrestlers themselves are in on it, performing crazy oversells for moves and breaking the fourth wall throughout. The Dragon Gate match I spoke about earlier is one that everyone acknowledges as six guys trying to put their promotion on the map, except for the wrestlers themselves, who play it completely straight. Here though, all six are winking at the camera, letting you know that yes, we are just trying to have the most gifable, shareable spotfest we can. It's this unique mix of hyper-impressive athleticism and self-aware near parody that makes it a classic for some and a nightmare for others. Irrespective of everything else, I think the finish is tremendous. Ospreay's counter requires some suspension of disbelief to justify Nick not noticing him, but it's so well timed and impressive that I can get past it. The shooting star Meltzer driver is executed perfectly, and the crowd absolutely erupts when it lands. I do think they should have ended the match there, as I think that was the absolute peak. I think the triple shooting star presses were excessive, but the crowd was still molten, and that final pop was still huge. The harshest thing I'll say about this match is what happens immediately after. I cannot put into words how much I hate Ricochet and Co asking Dave Meltzer in the front row what he rated it, as the crowd chants 5-star match. I think it's borderline pathetic from everyone involved. Being happy that the crowd enjoyed it I can accept. Prioritising the view of one journalist, I can't. Even in a self-aware match like this, it comes across really amateurish to me. It's fair to say I wasn't hugely immersed in this match. I was certainly sucked into it and absorbed by it, but there's far too much winking at the camera, fourth wall breaking shenanigans both in the ring and on commentary for me to ever buy into it as a real competition. What it lacks in immersion though, I think it makes up for in spectacle. It's relentless, high spot after high spot, big move after big move. This match is the embodiment of the more is more philosophy, and while there are some miscues and one particularly notable botch, it's executed extremely well. At the time I first saw this match, it was everything I was looking for. Something totally different to the safe and sanitised WWE that I was rejecting in my early teens. It was more athletic than any wrestling I'd ever seen. It was self-aware and ironic and satirical. At that time it was the alternative I was looking for, and it absolutely enthralled me. It's one of the maybe half dozen matches I've ever seen that legitimately changed my preconceived notions about what wrestling was. But as I've gotten older, and my tastes have changed, I found myself seeking sincerity at all costs, searching for the wrestlers brave enough to display utter commitment, authenticity and earnestness in their craft, rather than hiding behind a shield of disassociative irony. In a match like this, everyone, the wrestlers, the commentators and the fans are in on the joke. That's fine, and I think it's fun and has a place in wrestling, but that's not what I value most anymore. I want wrestling I can completely submerge myself in, regardless of the wrestling style itself, where no one is too cool to completely commit and play along with it. I still think it's absolutely worth watching. As I said, it's a spectacular display, But when it comes to buying into and believing what's taking place is conflict, if that's what you prize above all else, I don't know if you'll get as much value out of this match as I once did. As I said in the intro, there is no hard definition of what a spotfest is. The consensus I've seen when looking into the term online is that it's a match full of impressive moments and constant action, supposedly without storytelling or psychology or selling. But to be blunt, I think that's utterly ridiculous. I'll talk about selling shortly, but let's start with storytelling and psychology. Whether the story of a wrestling match is coherent, immersive or interesting, that's entirely subjective. But all matches have psychology, and all matches tell a story. What frustrates me is how often people dismiss a match by saying, no psychology, as if that's an objective flaw. Different styles of wrestling carry different psychologies. A lucha wrestling match full of rapid sequences and big high spots doesn't lack psychology, it just expresses it differently than an old school territory brawl would. Just like genres in film, wrestling styles come with their own language. A rom-com doesn't need blood and gore to be a real movie, and a fast-paced tag match doesn't need long holds and limb work to be valid wrestling. Again, it might not be your cup of tea, and that's fine, that's a good thing. Differing preferences is what makes pro wrestling interesting. You don't have to like a style, but disliking it isn't the same as it being wrong. I think what matters is that a match is internally consistent. As long as the style sticks to its own logic and tone, whether that's a shoot style fight or a high speed trio sprint, it can absolutely achieve immersion and emotional impact. Selling is a bit trickier, and I know this take won't be popular, so I'll try to be as clear as I can here. I don't think consistent, grounded selling is the be-all and end-all of wrestling. A match with long periods of realistic selling isn't inherently good. A match with limited and inconsistent selling isn't inherently bad. I think the style, realism, consistency and overall nature of selling should be determined by the style and goals of the match itself. There is no single right way to sell, there are thousands. The same goes for believability. If someone says they only enjoy believable wrestling, and they're not exclusively watching the UWF, rings, battle arts and their ilk, what they mean is immersive, and immersion is always subjective. I believe wrestling at its core is a balance between immersion and spectacle. That balance shifts depending on the match, the context, the crowd and the style. What counts as immersive or spectacular will always vary from person to person. Different matches intentionally tip that balance in different directions. Matches may lean much more heavily in one way than the other, and neither direction is more or less valid. Will these kinds of matches benefit from longer periods of selling between the big exchanges? Maybe. That might make the sequences feel more earned or add credibility to the offense. But maybe not. Drawn out selling that meets one fan's idea of realism might completely break the rhythm or intention of the match. And if that's the case, then it stops being about good psychology and becomes about enforcing your own personal taste as the standard. These matches aren't, for the most part, sloppy, stop-start or stuttery. And while some people may strongly disagree, I don't find them to be too obviously cooperative. Of course they are cooperative, how could they not be? That's what wrestling is. But that cooperation isn't what I see when I watch them. There are always moments where this isn't entirely the case, but watching these matches I still have the sense that each team is trying to defeat the other and win the match. There are going to be times when they seem more concerned with showing off the impressive moves they can do, and I know people take that to mean they aren't concerned about winning the match, but I disagree. In the bowler match especially, the egos involved are trying to prove they are the better and more impressive wrestlers. It's pride in the flash as much as the victory. You may not like it, but for the characters involved it makes sense, and it's consistent that they try and show off and do more flips than necessary, trying to belittle and show up their opponents before beating them. I can look past the smoke and mirrors that have to be there for this style to function, and still enjoy it. The execution is tight, the pacing flows, and the structure holds. That's what makes immersion possible. Not whether the match hides its artifice perfectly, but whether it earns your suspension of disbelief. When someone says a match is a spot fest, more often than not, the implication, intentional or otherwise, is that it isn't wrestling. That's not wrestling, that's just spots. That's just a spot fest. Where's the psychology? I would never say you have to like or even watch every style of wrestling. I think you should try to watch as wide a variety of wrestling as possible, since it helps you refine your tastes and your opinions and can introduce you to styles you'd never otherwise know about or get to enjoy. But if you want to watch one style or one promotion exclusively, that's your prerogative. There's a reason I chose these 3 matches for this video. All 3 matches open doors for fans and wrestlers alike as to what wrestling can be, at the bleeding edge. Don't get me wrong, there are negatives associated with this. Wrestlers copycatting these acclaimed matches and trying to work that same style without the ability can lead to weak, uncompelling matches. If the style proves too popular, it can lead to the homogenisation of wrestling, the exact opposite of why these matches worked in the first place, because they were so different to what was going on elsewhere at the time. The Dragon Gate 6-man is a perfect example of this. It was so different and new and refreshing for the US indie scene, but it ended up inadvertently moulding the scene around itself, as others tried to replicate their success, with diminishing returns each time. I still think these matches, and others like them, are hugely important to the culture of professional wrestling. They promote conversation and discussion, like in this very video. They open eyes as to what's possible within wrestling, and they allow people's tastes to be changed or confirmed as the case may be. If every match going forward was a spot fest, I'd hate it. Just like if every match was a death match, or a shoot style bout, or a lucha libre match, or a world of sports style match, or anything else. I believe no one who truly loves professional wrestling wants to see one style dominate and replace all the others, like they wouldn't want to see one promotion dominate and replace all the others. As long as matches like these push the boundaries of wrestling without becoming the default or suffocating other styles, I think they're a net positive for the art form. That's because wrestling isn't one thing. It's a spectrum of styles, tones and logics, each with its own rules, aesthetics and emotional language. What makes a match work isn't some universal concept of realism, it's internal consistency. Immersion doesn't come from a checklist of moves or tropes. It comes from a match committing fully to the world it's creating. Think about it like a film. You can be immersed in a science fiction film, or a gory horror, or a slapstick comedy, or a grounded character drama. The genre doesn't matter, as long as the work is internally consistent and doesn't break its own rules or tone. Wrestling works in the same way. Death matches, lucha libre, shoot style, British rounds, each has its own internal logic, its own texture. If a match plays by the rules of its own world, immersion is possible. And just like not everyone will enjoy every kind of movie, not everyone will enjoy every kind of wrestling. But disliking a style doesn't disqualify it from being real wrestling. If someone walked out of a rom-com upset there weren't enough explosions, or criticised a comedy for not being scary enough, we'd probably say they were missing the point. So why do people act like a fast-paced trios match is broken? Because it doesn't have long heat segments or limb selling. You don't have to like this style. In fact, I get why many people don't. And I agree that when this kind of match is done badly, it can be incredibly tiresome. But when people say it's not wrestling, just stunts or spots, I find it as misguided as saying horror isn't cinema because it's too violent, or that metal isn't music because it's too loud or too aggressive. You're allowed to hate it, but you can't claim that it's not part of the art form. I still hate the term, but by all means call them spotfest if you like. Just please don't dismiss them and pretend they're not wrestling. Whether you love them or hate them, bouts like these promote variety and innovation, and it's that variety and that innovation that I believe keeps wrestling alive. As far as I'm concerned, God bless the spot monkeys and their spot fests, because more than most people realise, I think we truly need them. Of the matches I spoke about in this video, I think my top recommendation would be the Blood Generation Duplex Attack from Supercard of Honor, but I encourage you to seek out all three. I think they're worth watching to understand the evolution of this type of match over the last 30 years, and also because I think it's important to watch matches like these in full, rather than relying on GIFs or highlight reels in order to form an actual opinion of them. Thank you for watching this episode of WrestleLore. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like it, and comment your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your opinions on spot fests and their value or lack thereof in wrestling. In the next episode, I'll be talking about one of my absolute favourite matches, in front of one of the hottest crowds of all time, as a hometown hero ascends to godlike status for 20 minutes, to spawn the performance of a lifetime. Thanks again for watching, follow me on Twitter for updates, and I'll see you later. Cheers.